I'm Kira, and I've always been a little different. Not in the way that makes you stand out at school dances, or gets you picked first for teams. No, my kind of different made people whisper behind my back in our small Midwest town, where everyone knows your business before you do. I can sense things, emotions, intentions, like a radio picking up signals nobody else hears. A stranger's anger, a friend's hidden fear, even a lie before it's spoken. It's not something I chose, and growing up, it felt more like a curse than a gift. In our little brick house on Maple Street, where the smell of my mom's meatloaf filled the air every Sunday, I learned early on that my family didn't know what to do with me. My parents ran the local hardware store, the kind of place where farmers and handymen swapped stories over coffee. They were practical folks, grounded in numbers and nails, and my feelings didn't fit their world. My younger sister, Chloe, was their pride and joy, for years younger, with a smile that could light up a county fair. She was the kid who'd twirl in her sundress at church picnics, soaking up every compliment, while I hung back, sensing the envy or boredom behind people's polite nods. I remember one summer, when I was about 10, we were at the town fair. The air was thick with the smell of popcorn and cotton candy, and I was trailing behind my mom, clutching her hand. Suddenly, a cold wave hit me, like a shadow passing over the sun. I glanced back and saw a man in a faded baseball cap, his eyes darting too fast. "Mom," I whispered, tugging her toward the craft booths. "Let's go this way." She frowned but followed. Minutes later, a woman's scream cut through the crowd. Her purse was gone, snatched by that same man. I saw him sprinting away, cap low, while the woman clutched her scraped knee. My mom looked at me, puzzled, but didn't ask questions. She never did. Another time, when I was 13, my dad brought home a guy he called a business buddy from the store. They were laughing over beers at the kitchen table, but something about the guy's smile made my stomach twist. It wasn't just nerves, I felt a sharp, greedy edge to him, like he was sizing us up. "Mom," I said later, when Dad stepped out to grab more drinks, "be careful with that guy." She rolled her eyes, told me to stop being dramatic. But when Dad came back, I couldn't stay quiet. "Dad, something's off. He keeps talking about partnerships. It feels wrong." Dad hesitated, his pen hovering over some papers the guy had slid across the table. He didn't sign. Weeks later, we heard that guy had conned half the town into a shady investment deal, leaving folks broke. Dad never thanked me, but he stopped inviting the guy over. You'd think moments like that would make my parents see me differently, but they didn't. They'd pat Chloe's head for winning a spelling bee, or charm the socks off the neighbors, while I was just
Kira,
the quiet one, the weird one. Chloe was their sun, and I was the shadow trailing behind. It hurt, that ache of being invisible in your own home, but I learned to keep my mouth shut. If I didn't talk about the vibes I felt, maybe they'd stop looking at me like I was broken. So I buried my gift, stuffed it down like an overstuffed suitcase, and tried to be normal. But normal never felt like home. By the time I hit high school, Chloe was the town's darling, cheerleader, drama club star, the girl who could talk her way into anything.
Me?
I was the girl who'd rather read in the library than cheer at football games. My ability to sense emotions was like a double-edged sword. I could tell when a teacher was hiding stress or a classmate was lying about their weekend, but it also meant I felt their negativity like a weight on my chest. I kept quiet, but the effort to hide who I was made me withdraw even more. Chloe didn't help. "You're so gloomy, Kira," she'd say, flipping her hair. "It's like you suck the fun out of everything." One spring, when Chloe was in middle school, she came home buzzing about a modeling scout who'd stopped her at the mall. "They said I could be on TV," she squealed, her eyes bright with dreams of Hollywood. My parents were thrilled, already picturing her face on billboards. But I felt a slick, oily vibe from the whole thing, like a used car salesman's pitch. "Chloe, slow down," I said, breaking my rule about staying silent. "Something's off about this agency." She spun on me, her face red. "You're just jealous because nobody wants you. Stop ruining my moment." My parents sided with her, telling me to stop being negative. I bit my tongue, but months later, The agency vanished after draining Chloe's savings for membership fees. She screamed at me, blaming me for jinxing her, and my parents just sighed, like I'd caused the mess. High school wasn't all bad, though. My junior year, a new assistant coach showed up, young, charming, the kind of guy who made girls giggle in gym class. But the first time he spoke, I felt a chill, like a snake slithering through grass. His smile was too perfect, his energy too dark. I'd sworn off sharing my hunches, but when I overheard girls whispering about how he lingered too long after practice, I couldn't stay quiet. I went to Ms. Martin, my English teacher, who had a kind, open vibe. "Ms. Martin," I said, my hand shaking, "I know this sounds crazy, but the new coach, he's not safe. Please, just watch him." She didn't laugh or brush me off. Instead, she nodded and said she'd keep an eye out. That evening, she caught him trying to sneak a camera into the girls' locker room. He was arrested, and the school buzzed with shock. Ms. Martin pulled me aside later. "How did you know?" she asked. For the first time, I told someone about my gift. She didn't call me crazy. Instead, she said, "I know someone who can help you understand yourself better." That's how I met Grace, a former counselor who became my mentor. Grace had the same gift I did, sensing emotions, seeing through people's masks. Over coffee at her cozy office, she shared stories of her own struggles, hiding her abilities, feeling like an outsider, finding a way to use her gift to help others. "You don't have to hide, Kira," she said, her eyes warm. "Your gift can be your strength." For the first time, I felt seen. Grace taught me how to trust my intuition, not fear it. She encouraged me to study psychology in college and start a freelance consulting business, using my abilities to guide people and businesses. Slowly, I began to see myself not as a freak, but as someone with something to offer. College was a fresh start. I studied psychology at a state university, learning to blend my intuition with practical skills. After graduation, I followed Grace's lead and set up a home office in our basement, offering life coaching and business consulting. My ability to sense hidden motives made me a natural at spotting risks and opportunities. Soon, I was helping small businesses in town avoid bad deals or pivot to success. A local bakery was about to close until I sensed the owner's supplier was overcharging. I guided her to a better deal, and her business doubled. Word spread, and bigger clients came calling, even a tech startup in Chicago. I was making real money, enough to cover half the household bills. But my family? They didn't care. To them, I was still the jobless daughter, holed up in the basement like a hermit. My mom leaned on me for every chore, laundry, dishes, cooking, while Chloe, now at a top university, was their star. When she came home on breaks, she'd toss her bags on the floor and say, "Kira, you're home all day. Can't you clean this up?" My parents never corrected her. They'd beam when Chloe talked about her internships or her straight-A grades, but when I mentioned a client's success, they'd nod absently, like I'd said I'd vacuumed the living room. Chloe's jabs got sharper after she landed a job at a Chicago tech firm. "I'm out here killing it, Kira," she'd say, smirking. "You're just, what, playing psychic in the basement? That's not a real job." It stung, but I'd learned to let it slide. I was proud of my work, even if they couldn't see it. I'd sit with Grace over Skype, venting about Chloe's cruelty, and she'd remind me, "You're not here to win their approval. You're here to live your truth." Those words kept me going, but the loneliness still crept in, like a draft I couldn't shut out. When Chloe got into her top choice university, she was unbearable, bragging about how her school was way better than mine. I'd gotten into a good college, but to her it was a joke. "You're so happy-go-lucky for someone stuck in this nowhere town," she'd sneer. My parents would shush her, but their eyes told me they agreed. Chloe was the success, and I was the disappointment. I kept my head down, focusing on my clients, but every insult chipped away at me. I started wondering if I'd ever escape the shadow of their expectations. One evening, as I was folding laundry in the living room, Chloe burst through the door, her face lit up like a Christmas tree. "I'm getting married," she announced, holding up a sparkling ring. My parents gasped, rushing to hug her. I stood there, a pile of towels in my arms, trying to process. "His name's Ethan," Chloe gushed. He's training to take over his dad's real estate empire in Chicago. He's the real deal, not like some people. She shot me a look, her voice dripping with superiority. Marriage is probably a pipe dream for someone like you, right, Kira? I forced a smile, but my stomach churned. Something about her announcement felt off, like a sour note in a song. That Sunday, Ethan came to dinner, striding into our house in a tailored suit, all charm and confidence. "Pleasure to meet you," he said, shaking my dad's hand. "I'd like to ask for Chloe's hand." My parents were smitten, especially when Chloe bragged that Ethan's dad was a big-shot CEO. But as Ethan talked about his training and his family's wealth, I felt it, a dark, slippery vibe, like oil spreading across water. His parents, who joined us later, had the same shadow behind their smiles. I tried to stay quiet, but the feeling grew stronger, like a storm brewing in my chest. After dinner, I pulled Chloe aside. "Chloe, you've only known him a few months," I said, my voice low. "Maybe take it slow. Something doesn't feel right about Ethan." Her face twisted with anger. "You're jealous, aren't you? I've got a future CEO, and you're stuck in the basement, so you're trying to ruin my happiness." My parents overheard and jumped in. "Kira, stop meddling," my mom snapped. "Let Chloe have her moment." I backed off, my head spinning. I wanted to protect her, but how do you explain a feeling nobody else can sense? The wedding plans moved fast, too fast. Chloe picked a fancy Chicago hotel for the ceremony, and my parents threw themselves into helping, acting like they'd won the lottery. I was roped into errands, addressing invitations, and picking up decorations, all while Chloe reminded me I was lucky to be included. The closer the day got, the heavier that dark vibe felt, but every time I tried to talk to Chloe, she'd cut me off with a sneer. "Focus on your chores, Kira," she'd say. I felt like I was screaming into a void, my warnings swallowed by their excitement. The wedding day arrived, and the Chicago hotel ballroom sparkled with chandeliers and white roses. Chloe looked like a princess in her gown, beaming as she and Ethan vowed eternal love. I stood at the back, my heart heavy with that same dark vibe I'd felt from Ethan. As the reception began, the CEO of Chloe's company, Victor, gave a glowing speech about her work ethic, which made her preen. But then I noticed something odd. No one brought me a plate. Tables around me were piled with shrimp cocktails and steak, but my spot stayed empty. Guests at my table whispered, glancing my way. Chloe glided over, her smile sharp as a knife. "Oh, Kira," she whispered, loud enough for others to hear, "we didn't bother with a meal for you. Why waste good food on someone jobless? Just leave your gift money and go eat chips at home." Ethan, at the groom's table, smirked, nodding like it was a great joke. My parents, sitting nearby, looked uncomfortable but said nothing. "It's true, Kira's unemployed," my mom muttered, avoiding my eyes. Anger surged through me, hot and sharp. "This is low, Chloe," I said, my voice shaking. "Mom, Dad, how can you let her do this?" They just glared like I was the problem. "Fine," I said, grabbing my purse. "I'm out. Don't come crying to me later." Before I could leave, a man stood up, his voice cutting through the room. "I'm Noah, Ethan's brother," he said, his face tight with disgust. "My family's a sham. Dad's company went bankrupt months ago. Ethan's not training to be CEO. He's unemployed, planning to live off Chloe." The room gasped. Chloe's face went pale, then red. "You lied to me?" she screamed at Ethan, tears streaming down her face. My parents started shouting, their dreams of a wealthy son-in-law crumbling. Ethan and his parents sat silent, their polished masks slipping. Then Victor, the CEO, stood up, his voice booming. "Enough. Chloe, you have no right to talk about lies when you've treated your sister like garbage." He turned to me, and the room went quiet. "Kira's not jobless. She's a goddess in the business world. Her advice saved my company from collapse 5 months ago. She's helped countless others turn their businesses around." Chloe's jaw dropped, her eyes darting to me like she was seeing a stranger. My parents stammered, "We thought Chloe was paying the bills," finally realizing I'd been supporting the house all along. The reception dissolved into chaos. Guests left, the wedding was cancelled, and Chloe's gift money was refunded. Her reputation at work tanked after her outburst spread, and she was demoted to a dead-end role, buried in debt from the wedding and an apartment lease she couldn't afford. Ethan and his parents slunk away, their scheme exposed, while Noah cut ties with them for good. I moved to Chicago, renting a sunny apartment with a view of the skyline. My business soared, with clients from startups to corporations seeking my guidance. I felt free, finally valued for who I was. Noah and I started talking more. He'd been so brave at the wedding, and his honesty drew me in. We began dating, and a few months ago, he proposed under the stars at Lake Michigan. I said yes, my heart full of hope for a life built on trust and love. Looking back, I feel a mix of relief and pride. Cutting ties with my family was hard, but it freed me from their judgment. I'm grateful for Grace, who showed me my gift was a strength, and for Noah, who sees me for me. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through pain, betrayal, and triumph. If my story touched you, hit that subscribe button and join us, where every step forward tells a story of resilience, truth, and a new beginning. Keep embracing what makes you unique, and I'll meet you on the other side of the struggle.